Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be mastering the Elsat Light Machine Gun in Battlefield 4. This is a slower firing but less recoil, more accurate LMG. It's an interesting LMG because it doesn't hit too hard, but it's got very little recoil. So it means you can be accurate at those further ranges and you can put a lot of shots where it counts. You're just not going to be doing that great in CQB. And I was trying to grind out some kills in TDM with this at first and then decided that it wasn't really worthwhile because this gun's not particularly great in TDM. Its damage per second is very low. So you need large maps with lots of little angles and stuff like that that you can take advantage of, where you can maximize that 100-round magazine and make sure that you can kill multiple people before you need to reload. And so 64-player rush is definitely a place you can do that. And why not throw a few blocks of C4 into the equation? I ended up using quite a bit of C4 this time around because when you get this many choke points and this many players together, you're going to need some C4 to chew through the numbers because you just can't do it with bullets. Not fast enough anyway. Now let's pop up the Simthic stats and see what this gun is all about. 650 round per minute rate of fire in the orange there. That is one of the most important stats on just about any weapon out there because it generally lets you know how much damage per second you're going to be doing, unless your bullets are doing a crap ton of damage. This is pretty average though, 24.5 maximum damage, 18 minimum damage, so you're getting assault rifle damage levels here. So it's a very slow rate of fire, very low damaging gun. It's going to be outshot by most things you run into on the battlefield. A lot of PDWs and CQB are just going to wreck you. So there's not a lot you can do in the DPS department with this weapon. It's pretty much at the bottom of the food chain. However, it is accurate. So if you're an accurate player and you like to perhaps engage people at medium and longer ranges, you can take advantage of this weapon. If you also like the idea of engaging multiple opponents, like one after the other without having to reload, the Elsat can do that as well. It's certainly not a bad LMG, but it's not something that you want to deal with a crap load of enemies in close quarters. It's sort of a hold off the enemies at medium range, peck away at them, hurt individuals, take cover, and then re-engage when your health is back up. It's not something that you can necessarily be in the front lines leading the charge with. The one thing that I'm not crazy about with this LMG is that when you start doing good with this weapon, you find that you're out of ammo pretty quickly. 100-round box magazine certainly isn't bad, but you kill 3 people, you're going to want to start to reload that soon. You have 20-30 rounds left, you're going to want to think about reloading this weapon. And it's got a long reload. It's got that full LMG length reload, 5.9 seconds. So it's a little bit tricky getting used to this, and it always seems to run out of ammo right when you need it the most. Now, as you can see from the recoil pattern here, this is a very low recoil LMG. You could potentially tap fire it, but there are way better LMGs out there for tap firing gameplay. So it's just accurate. You can full auto, you can burst fire, you can get a good 5 to 7 round burst off and still maintain very good accuracy. If it's closer to medium range engagements, you can pretty much just full auto this weapon and expect to get very accurate shots. You don't need to let off the trigger too often. Now, especially if your recoil control is not great in this game, and like me when I play on console, I just suck at controlling my recoil, so I tend to favor guns like this that just don't need much in the way of recoil compensation. You can really just kind of tap fire, burst fire these weapons very easily and hit a lot of people at long range without needing any recoil control. You can just kind of let the auto aim take over. One of the most annoying things though about this LMG, and any other LMG for that matter, is the freaking tracer rounds that were added last patch. Those big orange rounds that go flying off into the distance. It's something that I have to remind myself every single time I start playing this game again and I start shooting with an LMG and those tracer rounds start flying out there. I think, don't aim at where it looks like the tracer rounds are going. Just aim at the center of your crosshair and your shots should hit on target. Ignore the orange tracer rounds and you will do a lot better in this game. It's just something that's so visually difficult to ignore and to try not to aim towards, or try not to compensate based on where it looks like your tracer rounds are going. Those are just a visual effect that don't really represent anything about the physics or what's going on with your bullets in this game. Now, you'll see in a bunch of clips where I cancel my reloads, and that happens a lot, especially if you're playing defensively on rush. You try and get a reload in with about 20 rounds left in your magazine. somebody looks like they're coming up some stairs or about to flank you, and you have to cancel that reload so you can re-engage with your primary. I've seen some people actually knife. They'll do like a knife swipe to try and cancel their reload, and that is a technique that works technically, but I believe it's faster to actually switch to your secondary and then back to your primary. You can do it so fast that you don't even see your secondary weapon come up. It just kind of puts your primary weapon down, and then your primary weapon comes back up, and you can re-engage, and it's just canceled whatever you've done with your reload. So yeah, if you are a knife cancel reloader, try switching to your secondary back to your primary, and you'll find it's just a tiny bit faster, which ultimately can be the difference between life or death. Now, as for the attachments on this weapon, I tried running heavy barrel, stubby grip, some of the old classic combinations, but since they kind of messed with all the attachments recently and everything's kind of up in the air, I ran the gun naked with just the Coyote sight on there, and it was performing just fine. I felt like I didn't really need much else in the way of recoil compensation. Now, I will say that I was enjoying this gun a little bit more, I think, when I was playing defensively on Rush, just because I was able to try and control my engagement distances a little bit better and always make sure that some of my teammates were in front of me. But when playing offensively in Rush, I always just find myself in the front lines because I'm always trying to sort of push forward, get to the MCOM, push up and kill the enemy teams. And in those situations, I think I was just getting a little bit too close to the point where the LSAT wasn't really giving me much of a benefit over one of the standard LMGs like an M249 or an MG4. And that's something that you should really just be asking yourself every time you're playing this game. Am I using a weapon that's appropriate for this situation? Sometimes you might have your favorite gun, but your favorite gun isn't good for all situations. It's good for most situations, but not all. So LSAT, not great for close quarters. If you find yourself just constantly engaging people in close quarters, don't use the LSAT. The MG4, M249 are going to be infinitely more usable than this weapon because they have 200 round magazines and they shoot faster. Perfect for CQB combat. Not quite as accurate for medium and longer range engagements as the LSAT though. Now, I did manage to make it work in combination with C4 when people got too close. Just chuck some C4 around the corner, get a kill, because the LSAT just isn't very effective in those engagements. But I was also making sure not to push in too far by myself and keep my teammates close by, because a good distraction or anybody nearby is a great way to take some of the fire off of you and give you enough time to get the kill that you're going for, which is especially important with anything that doesn't have a high damage per second. And if you caught that back there, I got the 500 kill mastery dog tag with the LSAT, so I can check this gun off the list, but I had to push forward with my team, see how far we could get in this game of Rush. It is tricky playing a 64 game of Rush because the choke points get so absolutely intense. It just feels like you can never kill enough of the enemy. It just seems like there's an endless wave, which in theory is pretty much accurate considering that the defending team doesn't have tickets. They just keep respawning and respawning and respawning, so it's hard to get that foothold going. But that last subterranean MCOM, we just couldn't quite get to it in time. I hate it when you're like at the last MCOM and you're watching your tickets dwindle down and your team's just not making that last ditch effort that they need to get on point. But the numbers of the enemies surrounding that MCOM were intense. More than 100 round box magazine could deal with, that is for sure, or even a full squad of guys, and half of the team had to sort of defend the enemy coming from their spawn and the other half had to try and push for the MCOM. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, but it was a fun try and a good round overall. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Try out the LSAT, make sure you're using it at longer and medium ranges, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.